Look at a giant panda, and your brain does something automatic. You smile. You think, what a ridiculous, lovable creature. You definitely don't think that animal is biologically one of the worst designed survivors in the entire history of life on Earth. But that's exactly what it is. When biologists study pandas in detail, they arrive at a conclusion that sounds almost cruel. Left entirely to themselves, without human intervention, giant pandas are on a one-way path to extinction. Not because of hunters, not because of habitat loss, because of themselves. Welcome to Explained Board. Today, we're looking at one of nature's greatest underachievers, an animal that has managed to work against its own survival at almost every level: diet, digestion, reproduction, and social behavior. This is the story of the giant panda. Let's start with the food, because the panda's food choices are genuinely the foundation of all its other problems. The giant panda is a bear, a member of the same family as the brown bear, the polar bear, the black bear. Bears, as a group, are omnivores. They eat meat, fish, berries, roots, insects, and just about anything else that holds still long enough. They are exceptionally good at finding and processing food. The giant panda decided it only wanted bamboo. Not occasionally, not as a supplement, almost exclusively. About 99% of a giant panda's diet is bamboo, a woody grass that is nutritionally one of the emptiest foods on the planet and is also mildly toxic. Bamboo contains cyanide. Under normal circumstances, no large mammal should be eating this stuff at all. And yet here is this bear spending 12 hours every single day doing nothing but chewing through it. The panda's digestive system, which evolved for meat, can only extract about 20% of the nutrients in bamboo. The rest passes straight through. Which brings us to the bathroom situation. The average giant panda defecates approximately 40 times per day.
The number
40! Because the food provides almost nothing, the body has to move it through constantly to keep looking for whatever marginal nutrition might be hiding in it. And because bamboo is essentially wood, the process is, let's say, not comfortable.
A giant panda spends half the day,
12 hours eating
12
something
hours,
that barely
just
nourishes
eating.
it, and the other 12 hours dealing with the consequences. And here's where it gets genuinely strange. Scientists have observed that pandas will sometimes roll around in their own waste. The working theory is that certain compounds in the excretion might help regulate their body temperature. Researchers are still not entirely sure. Evolution is supposed to move creatures toward better survival strategies. The panda
Evolutionary
appears to be
GPS.
moving in the opposite
Recalculating.
direction. In the animal kingdom, groups of animals have collective nouns. A group of wolves is a pack, a group of crows is a murder, a group of kangaroos, and kangaroos are genuinely aggressive, territorial animals, is called a mob. A group of giant pandas is called an embarrassment. Biologists don't name animal groups randomly. The name usually reflects the animal's behavior or character. Whoever named this one was being honest. And the behavior that earned pandas that name goes well beyond bad food choices.
Here's one of the most fascinating details in the whole panda story. Scientists who study gut bacteria use the microbiome, the community of microbes living in an animal's digestive system, as a window into how that animal eats. The microbiome reflects the diet. A carnivore has carnivore microbes. A herbivore has herbivore microbes. The giant panda's gut microbiome looks exactly like a carnivore's, identical to the polar bear, which eats nothing but meat. identical to the brown bear and the black bear. Despite eating almost exclusively bamboo for somewhere around 7 million years, the panda's internal biology still thinks it's a meat eater. The microbes haven't adapted. The gut hasn't adapted. Only the behavior changed.
Which raises an obvious question. If pandas can eat bamboo, why won't they eat meat? Researchers found the answer in the panda's DNA. The gene responsible for detecting the savory, rich taste of meat, a flavor quality known as umami, is switched off in giant pandas, completely non-functional. Without that gene, meat doesn't taste like anything worth eating. It provides no signal of nutrition, no pleasure, no reward, so the panda ignores it, even when starving. You could put the finest steak in front of a hungry panda, and it would look straight through it. So how does a carnivore end up eating plants it can barely digest? The answer starts with bamboo itself. Bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants on Earth. Some species can grow a full meter in a single day. In the forested mountains of southern China, where pandas live, bamboo doesn't just exist, it dominates. It spreads aggressively, outcompeting other plants, shading them out, eventually replacing entire sections of forest with a dense, near impenetrable wall of stalks. What that means for an animal living in these forests is that over millions of years, the food options gradually narrowed. Other prey became scarcer. The bamboo was everywhere. And at some point, the ancestors of the modern panda made a trade, or were forced into one. They began eating bamboo to survive. But eating bamboo and thriving on bamboo are very different things. And somewhere along the way, the umami gene switched off. Possibly because an animal that can't taste the appeal of meat is less likely to waste energy chasing it through a bamboo forest. The bamboo won, and the panda adapted to the bamboo. Imperfectly, expensively, but just enough to keep going.
Just enough has been the panda's standard ever since. Here's one more anatomical oddity worth mentioning. Giant pandas have 6 digits on each forepaw. 5 regular digits, plus what appears to be an opposable thumb, a wrist bone that has evolved into a gripping structure over millions of years. You might think,
Promising
great,
structure!
a thumb, like a primate. Now we're talking.
Unfortunately, it's not a functional thumb in the primate sense. It doesn't rotate, it doesn't allow the fine motor control of a gorilla or a human hand. It exists for one purpose only, to grip bamboo stalks. It's a thumb built entirely around the one food the panda eats. The rest of the bear family evolved paws capable of delivering strikes powerful enough to kill large animals. The panda evolved a bamboo holding attachment. The family resemblance ends there.
If the panda's diet is its first problem, its social life, or rather the absence of one, is a close second. Because bamboo is low in nutrition, pandas are constantly in competition for it. When a panda finds a good patch, its instinct is to guard it, not from predators, but from other pandas. So they establish solitary territories and actively avoid contact with others of their own kind. They're not protecting a hunting ground or a water source. They're defending a patch of grass that barely keeps them alive. But the instinct is strong enough to drive them apart anyway. The result is a species where individuals live alone, rarely encounter each other, and have almost no social bonds. No lasting relationships, no friendships, no family units beyond a mother caring for her young cub in the earliest weeks. You may have seen the Kung Fu Panda films. Po has a whole community, a master, students, rivals who become allies, a sense of belonging. That's the fiction. The reality is a solitary bear, eating bamboo alone in a mountain forest, 40 times a day. And then there's reproduction, which for the giant panda is perhaps the most impressive display of biological self-sabotage of all. Female pandas are only fertile for a maximum of 2 or 3 days per year. That's the entire window, 2 days, sometime in early spring when conception is possible. Outside of those days, it simply can't happen biologically. 2 days. And the male panda? The male panda has almost no innate drive to seek out a mate. The motivation that compels virtually every other mammal on Earth to find a partner and reproduce, the giant panda seems largely indifferent to it. So you have a species where the female is available for roughly 48 hours a year, and the male can barely be bothered to notice. This is why Chinese authorities and wildlife zoos around the world have resorted to artificial insemination. In controlled breeding programs, the animals are essentially managed through the entire process, because if you left them to sort it out themselves, almost nothing would happen. When a pregnancy does succeed, natural or assisted, the mother carries the cub for 5 months and then gives birth to something about the size and weight of a stick of butter. A newborn giant panda weighs roughly 1/1000th of its mother's body weight. It's pink, hairless, and essentially helpless, closer in appearance to a small lizard than a bear. It requires constant care, constant feeding, and months of support before it can begin to function independently. Every step of this process is fragile, and every step requires help from humans or from luck to go right. Now, here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Every giant panda on Earth, whether in a wildlife reserve in Sichuan, a zoo in San Diego, or a breeding center in Edinburgh, is owned by China. Not managed by China, owned. When China loans a panda to a foreign zoo, it charges approximately $1 million per year in rental fees. The standard lease runs 10 years. And zoos pay it happily, because a panda is by far the most commercially valuable animal any zoo can have. Visitor numbers at a zoo with pandas can double or triple compared to years without them. For a creature that can't figure out how to eat meat or find a mate, the giant panda has turned out to be extraordinarily good for business. Just not its own business. The rental contracts also include a clause. If a panda dies while in the care of a foreign zoo, that zoo owes China a substantial penalty payment. Estimates suggest this runs well over $1 million per animal. The exact figure is not made public. China takes the well-being of its pandas very seriously, financially speaking. All pandas living in the wild, roughly 1,900 of them, according to Chinese government figures, are also monitored continuously. Camera networks cover their habitats. Rangers watch for signs of trouble. When a panda gets stuck in a tree, or falls, or simply wanders into danger, there are people whose job it is to go and help. The panda has become one of the most intensively protected animals in the world. Not because it earned that protection through any particular survival skill, but because it's too iconic to lose. The giant panda is a strange thing to contemplate. It is, by almost every biological measure, an animal that should not still exist. Its diet is wrong for its body, its reproduction is barely functional, its social instincts push it toward isolation at exactly the moment it needs to find a partner. It has no real defense against predators, no stored energy reserves for winter, and a genetic quirk that makes it unable to recognize the food that would actually sustain it. And yet, here it is. About 2,700 of them, scattered across protected mountain forests and carefully managed zoo programs around the world, watched over by humans who have decided, for reasons of science, conservation, and perhaps something a little more emotional, that this particular creature deserves to keep going.
Whether that's nature taking its course or humans overriding it is a question worth sitting with. Either way, the panda is still here, eating bamboo alone 40 times a day. Stay curious. We'll see you in the next one.